Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the Bylaws and Resolutions Advisory Committee meeting. Today is March 8th. We are a hybrid meeting. We have some of us here in person, some of us are joining us virtually. We do have a quorum, so we are able to conduct business. And as always, at the beginning of our meeting, I'd just like to confirm that our members don't. Does anyone have any objections to our meeting being recorded and then posted later? Does anybody have any objections to that?
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is we do like to introduce ourselves. So my name is Laura Canbeck, and I am the chairperson for this committee. We have a total of 5 members on our committee. We do have one new member today. That is Camilla Rogers.
Correct.
And she is going to be joining us for all this riveting fun that we have here.
I had riveted fun the last time I was on this committee.
And then would you like to introduce yourselves, my other committee members that are
You
here?
guys are Ocean Pines members since 2014.
Pam Corendi, Ocean Pines member since 1991.
Augie?
Hi, August Flengy. We've had a property at Ocean Pines since 2014.
Wonderful, great. And I say, I don't even know what year did I do mine. I don't know. I've been here 9.5 years, whatever that date is, so.
That's Jim.
Jim is in the top.
We closed on our house exactly 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Then our board liaison will be here shortly, as soon as he can. That is Steve Jacobs. So we're going to keep moving on. So all of our committee members are present for today's meeting. Next up is we introduce our guests. So Jim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Jim Trommel, resident member since 2002.
Bob Hilligus, resident since, I got to think on that one, 1999, I believe it was.
See, that's your pop quiz for today. Is you all have to figure out your date. Okay, introduction of guests, we did that. Approval of agenda. You all have the agenda in front of you and it's on the screen. Is there anything that anyone wants to add to it, or committee member wise, is there anything that we need to add to this agenda?
I don't
Okay.
I don't think I have anything.
Okay. All right. So hearing no objections, we will state that the agenda has been approved. Go back up. Next thing up on our agenda is the minutes from our February 9th meeting, which is on the screen for you. See if I can make that a little bit bigger. These are our fabulous minutes, again taken by Augie, who, considering he's very talented, because he had to take these minutes off of our video because he was actually here for our meeting. So I'm sure that was probably a different challenge, huh?
Augie, I thought it was outstanding.
Good job.
The funny thing is, I was watching the video and I kept like starting to talk, like I could say something. Felt like being at the meeting.
Did you include your comments in the meeting minutes?
No, I don't think they count.
So, those of you in the, everyone got these minutes emailed to them. Did anybody find anything that we need to correct or anything on them? No typos or anything like that? Okay. All right. So hearing no objections, then the minutes from the February 9th meeting are approved. And then when you get a chance, if you'll send me the official clean copy with the governance tracker attached to it, I will send that to the office to get them to post it on the website for us. Okay, so thank
Do
you.
that soon.
Okay, next up is public comments. Do either of our guests, former members, have any comments they'd like to make? Jim?
Yeah, Laura, this is not so much a comment as a request for some information and to avoid interrupting the flow once you get into the agenda. In C01, there's a draft of amendments to that resolution, the committee resolution. Can you tell us what where that originated from?
Memory serves me right, we might need to ask, Steve, because the, directors were going to give some kind of feedback, and input on what they want to adjust on that, I think. That is where I got that from.
Okay.
I missed what he asked for. What?
Just where the copy, that we have of C01 came from, the
Oh,
amended,
okay,
the amended one.
okay.
Is this a recent amendment? Or is this from back in 23 when we
I
submitted the
think
charge?
originally it was, it's an old topic, but we were gonna bring it back up again because there were some,
So this is that just being brought back up.
correct.
Okay. So Jim, I don't know if you remember, but back in 23, we did a charging document on C01. With some, I think, as I recall, it was some just basic bits and pieces here and there. And C01 we thought should be addressed. And then it got tabled.
Is that the one where we also wanted to get more clarification about the annual report?
Yeah, that's the one where the board,
The template for the agenda and minutes
yeah,
and things, all of
yeah.
that is part of that one,
and the board deferred that to the executive steering committee
which never.
to
followed
get
up.
together and
Right.
come up with some input on it. And I think we've been waiting all this time for something to come out of that.
Right, and then
Right.
Steve mentioned that it was, the directors, I think, wanted to have some input on that one, but they, it has not gone for a first reading with the directors yet. So until it does that, we don't have to do anything until it goes through that first reading.
Yep.
According to what,
A reason for my question was that the top major topic in that draft is the application process. And that was a topic at the executive committee meeting approximately 2 years ago now, the last one that I personally attended. And I was just curious as to whether it may have come out of that or exactly where it came from. That's just, it's a question of, not a question, it's just information as to its origin, that's all. Because it is a topic that goes back now 2 years at the executive committee level.
well, if the last executive committee meeting was held in December of 2022, can you go very quickly? He must have bumped himself up. The last executive committee meeting, which is all the chairpersons and the directors, was held December of 2022. There was none held in like December of 2023 yet. Nothing has been said with the current board that they were having one yet. So we're waiting. And at that December 2022 one, that's where the work group was going to do more work and come back. And nothing was ever brought back to the rest of us as chair people. And
So you just sort of revived this,
It's just
sort of dusted it off and put it back on the agenda.
just
Okay.
gonna keep it there so we don't forget about it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You get that, Jim?
So is there anything else to comment
No,
on? You
that's all
good?
for me.
I have nothing to comment at this time.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, the VO8 was about the ethics and conduct, particularly as it related to board members getting free stuff,
Right,
for
that'll
lack
be
of a better
discussed.
word.
That will be discussed when we get to the end.
Oh, okay.
business.
All right.
It's not
That's
here.
That's good.
This is under public comments.
Okay.
Because Bob and Jim are not
Our
official committee
gotcha.
members now. They're
Okay.
allowed to do the public comment part. So we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so public comments are closed for right now. Chairperson's report. I have incorporated, into when I became chairperson, giving an update on, the tasks that I, accomplish and do. So I attended the, directors meeting in person, February 17th. I emailed Michelle Ross with the GM's office to add today's agenda to the website and our approved minutes from our January meeting to the website. It was also noted when I was doing all of that, checking the website, you were still listed as a committee member, even though it said your term had expired. Camilla has been added. So I just kind of made a note when I sent that original email to them that you can come off as a committee member, so that it doesn't look like we have 6 committee members, you know, because we're only approved for 5. Then I have been attending the Ocean Pines Work Group committee meetings for the Spring Kickoff Expo. That is the event that is on Saturday, April 20th. From 3 to 7 p.m. in the White Horse Park over here, where like the farmers market is. The rain date for that is April 27th. They met on February 6th and February 28th. Our next meeting, I think it's March 21st. And then I am planning on submitting my application, which would be a 2-year term, and to remain as chairperson unless there's any objections to that. When our board liaison comes, he's going to sign the application for me, and then we will leave it for Linda Martin for her to include for the March directors meeting. My term technically ends in April, but we didn't want to wait till the last minute of April to go through the process. So that's why I'm submitting it in March. So upcoming tasks that I still have to do is the next directors meeting for March is the 23rd. And then I will be attending the Ocean Pines Volunteer Appreciation Dinner. So as we're talking about that, I don't think I added that to the agenda, but is there anyone who has not RSVP'd to me that needs to give me an update? Because I have to give that head count to Steve today.
I didn't RSVP to you because I tagged on with John. So I'm his +1. So I didn't, you get it?
No.
John is president of the men's golf club. And when he filled out the form, he just put me on the form with him.
Okay.
So I will be there.
She'll be at the golf table.
I just, right.
Oh, you have to be
I
by
need
a
to-
table.
Don't they?
Well, no, you
No?
don't. You don't have to, we don't have to sit with each other, but they need to know what committee members are attending and from what committees we are.
And
So-
what's the date again?
So, all right, so Pam, you are attending
April 11th.
April 11th. It'll be at the yacht club upstairs.
I'll attend.
Are you saying yes?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Pam, what is your husband's name?
John Ferendi. I guess we're kind of used to going to things together. In 54 years, we've been doing things together.
Okay, and then it's April 11th. I want to say it's like 7 o'clock. It's a dinner time, right? It's a evening.
I think I recall that correctly.
I can't remember. Just let me know by the end of the meeting then for sure if you think you can.
Oh, no, we'll be there.
Okay, and then what's your husband's name?
Paul.
Okay. All right. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think that's it from my report. I will, let's see, tonight I'm going here. Yeah, I'll get to it. Okay. So I gave my report. Normally I ask then Steve, our board liaison, if he has a report he would like to add anything that's not on our agenda. Since he's not here, we will move on. Now we'll start the unfinished business. At this point, we do, what's the word I'm looking for? We rescind the Robert's Rules of Order process here, so that enables us to allow Jim and Bob to kind of participate with our conversation if they have any questions, and then we'll only reestablish it if we as committee members need to vote on something. Okay. All right. So Ocean Pines Work Group Expo update. The only update I have on that for you is I wanted to show you. This is the sign that will be at our table. Let me see if I can make it just a little bit smaller so it all fits in there. Yeah. Okay. So Gary Miller, who is one of the main chairpersons for this, he is creating, and they are getting different signs for the table set up. He basically took what's on the website as a descriptor for our committee and put that on the sign. I would have been perfectly content with just black and white, Ocean Pines Bylaws and Resolutions Advisory Committee. But I think they're trying to really make it look, and this is not dated so that any future events where we might have a table or something, it can be used again. And it's going to be like one of those yard signs, that have the metal stake with it, so that you can either put it in the ground or bend the legs on it so that it'll sit on the table. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that or see anything? Because the other committees that are participating are the strategic planning, us, environmental, communications. I feel like there might be one more.
Aquatics are not gonna be there?
Well, these are just the advisory committee parts.
Okay.
They're considered under the amenities.
Got
So
it.
they will be
You're right.
there, just like golf, aquatics.
Got it.
The racket sports.
Yeah.
They will all also be there, but they're kind of labeled more under an amenity, not an actual committee, So that will be our task to, basically the gist of this is that we're supposed to stand there and if people ask, what does all of this mean? We can show them how to find it on the website, how to go there. And if they have a question about, maybe say like the art guidelines or something, we can help show them where it is, even though that's not our committee, but we can show them how to go and find everything, and why we have these kind of rules that we follow, as a homeowner. Okay. All right, so the next update is B08. That is the Director Ethics and Conduct resolution. It was presented for a first reading at the February 17th directors meeting. Excuse me. Always gets me choked up now. At this time, the directors do not feel, or I should say, the majority of the directors do not feel this needs to come before the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee for any input at this time. This was presented and created, updated, I should say, by our board liaison. And again, the intent, because this was an old topic, was to, and it was tabled at the end of last year, because that set of directors felt that it would be better to wait and since there were going to be 3 new directors coming on board, to wait and bring it forward for them. this current board of directors, 6-1, basically, 6 of them don't feel that an ethics, resolution needs to be brought back.
So should we just delete this from the tracker? Since this thing was never actually formalized, it never actually became a resolution?
I think,
I mean, is there any point in even tracking it?
well, it's got a number on it, so I think you should have a holding spot for it for
But it-
08.
Yeah, but it was never signed into existence, so that number is really
Well,
not
that's
taken.
true.
I agree with you. I don't think that, I think this whole thing with BOA has been, since I was on the board, that it's beating a dead horse and it's not gonna go anywhere under this group.
Yeah, because we're just gonna keep
It's a circle.
commenting about something
It's just a
that
circle.
technically doesn't exist.
Yeah, so I would say for right now, let's go ahead and take it off our agenda. We can take it off of, I still have, most HOAs do have, and most businesses do have some kind of an ethics policy that we all need to acknowledge. And it's not because we think all of us as adults are act like children and need to have a behavior document. It's to be transparent and to say, we are abiding by these kind of, guidance, but this particular, group does not want to further it anymore, so we should not have to give up any of our time to discuss it.
Yeah, and if, I'd say we just take it off the tracker. If it comes up again in the future, we can add it back on, and, if it becomes another action item, but
Is it
So,
even listed in the book?
It's not.
I forgot.
I don't know. I got,
Listed.
There was something in there that.
there might be a
it got
placeholder.
rescinded in 2021, I believe, so I don't, but there was something before.
I'm not sure it was it was never signed, was it?
No, it was never signed.
It was never signed.
Ocean, let's see here. Ocean.
11/22.
Look it up real quick.
Yeah.
And I think the
Where ever
goal
make a
of,
book.
our liaison was not to, and there was no need for a vote that day at that director's meeting because it was only going for a first reading. He was not planning on bringing it back up for another month or two to give time for everybody to get some input and fine tune. He made some rough red line adjustments to it. So, but they were all very adamant that they did not.
You know the history of that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, it's there. Oh, it's
not there.
it's there. It's there, and its status is
Okay.
rescinded.
And that's the way it should be.
But rescinded is not really the right word, is it? Because if it was never signed, it was just a draft that was proposed. So I mean, it technically wasn't
What
rescinded.
did we
You know,
do?
I'm trying to remember how this all came about. There was the incident over at the yacht club.
Yeah.
And that came into a big brouhaha. And as a result of what happened over there, when I was on the board, I was asked to sit and look at doing adaptations to BO8. And I had a little committee that did that, but we took it to a first reading. It never got through the second reading.
Right.
And I don't remember that anything
That's
ever.
probably the
got-
right way to note it.
Yeah,
The board suspended it.
yeah.
I don't know. what-
I don't know. I don't even know if that's the right word for it. I mean, if we bring something before the board that, hey, what do you think? And the board goes, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. Then it never was,
Jim,
right?
Jim,
Jim will know.
Yes,
Because it
was this
I'm here.
ever a resolution that was brought back up and then canceled?
B01 or B08.
I'm not gonna try to go on my memory. I think that at one time we did have I know we've had in the past an ethics resolution. The question is, when is the last time we had one and when it was rescinded?
So maybe that's.
You may not want to do it right now, but for the clarity of your records, make sure somebody goes back and sees whether or not B08 ever actually existed as an approved resolution and was then rescinded. I sort of think that's been the case, but I don't want to rely on my memory. I'd have to go back behind me in a file cabinet and start pulling out folders of information on B08 to make sure think I know what I have as good information.
So
But again, I don't want to stick my neck too far out. I kind of think that B08 did exist and has been rescinded in the last several years.
I think it did too.
okay, so
I
can you-
have all the files from, that you had gotten from Marty, is it Marty Clark?
Yeah.
Right? I have all of those, I have all of Jim's, I will go back through.
you should be able to also just ask,
I can reach out to, with, support from
yeah,
liaison to Linda.
because if that's the,
She-
yeah,
She keeps track of like the book of
The old
resolutions.
stuff should be there.
because if it was, I mean,
Because
if
that's how
it,
we found that the F one was
Right.
in there, but not numbered.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean?
because if that number B8 was technically used in the past on the signed document, then we should keep it on here.
Right,
Right.
yes, that's
Yeah,
my.
okay.
yeah, that's
All
my-
right, so you're gonna
But
take
as
that for
far
action?
as looking at it and updating any red lines, we are not going to do
Yeah.
that until we are asked to do it.
But you're just gonna confirm that it ever actually existed.
Anybody can hear me? The audio is breaking up very badly.
Our audio's breaking up?
Oh, can you hear me?
See how jerky the video is?
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry about that, Jim. I think our connection is a little
yeah.
wonky. We can-
Okay,
Wonky.
so.
Do you wanna,
So we've wrapped up B08 then, right? C01, we're just leaving it again. It's just on here. There's no action needed from our committee at this time because it has not gone through a first reading with the directors yet, an updated version of it. And according to, if my memory is correct, the liaison, Steve, has said that the directors had some updates they want. So they're the ones who are gonna put it through for a first reading, and then it should come to us. So,
The B08.
huh?
You're still talking about B08?
No, C
You're,
zero.
okay,
excuse me,
all right,
It's-
got it.
Yeah. For my own memory's sake and everything, I will list some of these things as unfinished business and status updates so that we don't forget to come back to them, even though we are clarifying and make it known for everyone that we're not taking any action on them. So
Okay.
that's why sometimes on the agenda, you will see something that we don't actually have to have a full big discussion on.
That sounds good.
Okay, so B01 is the same thing. It's kind of been a lingering thing, to, but that again, no action is needed from us, okay? So there is not a whole, we may end up having a short meeting today with,
say not so.
I know, but, so under new business, I did want to share. I don't know if all of you noticed, did you see the, update and publication from the elections committee that they now have? They've publicized the beginning of this new elections cycle. So, I mean,
You talking about the form?
yeah, here.
I looked at
The
that.
candidate form here,
Yeah.
this is what is online.
I think that is the last
That's
one we
correct
looked at.
one. Okay, I just wanted us to look at it, and make sure it looks like it's the correct one.
Oh, let's see what's in there.
Because this is what they had posted on their,
What's the daily revision on that? Can you go back just a? No,
Or
at the
further.
bottom, I just want to see what the date was, that this was last revised.
Does it have a date on it?
Yeah, it does, down in the left-hand corner of this page, I think.
What is that attached to? So it's not attached to,
It should be attached to the election committee. isn't
Yeah.
it?
it's not attached to M6.
Yeah,
Which one? So it should be attached to something else?
no, it should be,
It's not attached to M6. I'm looking at it right now.
That's 09.
Nine?
That should be attached to 09.
You go, Jim.
Yeah,
Oh, search committee. Okay. All right.
all right, so
It's
here,
also specified in the bylaws. To be
Say the
attached
what?
to the. It's
The
also
what?
supposed to be a part of N09 in, as stated in the bylaws. The application form section of 5.02, 5.04, something like that.
Lori, scroll to the top of the form, just start at the top of the form, I can do it.
attachment B.
Attachment B, all of that looks the same, scroll down a little. So this is strange, the one that's, no, this is not the same. So the one that's in the book of resolutions as an attachment, after that opening paragraph where it says answer yes, no to the following, provide, at the end, in here, it says these questions are optional.
Oh, 3/24/23 is this one.
And does this have a date on it? This one has no date on it,
Okay.
the one that's in here. So this one, the one that's posted says these questions are optional in section 2. And then what do you got there? Section 3. Scroll back up a little bit. Scroll back up to
To
3.
number 3 or 2?
Right there.
Okay.
That's different too. So this is not the form that is attached to the resolution.
Well, so then I just copied and pasted their announcement.
Here, the election, 3 different forms.
Yeah, there were 3 different forms.
I copied and pasted their exact announcement, so I put it in a Word document, or made it into a PDF so we could look at it. This was issued on March 1st, where the Ocean Pines Election Committee has announced important dates for the 2024 election process, including filing and voting deadlines. 7-member volunteer board is the governing body of Ocean Pines. Terms for elected directors are 3 years. This year, 2 seats on the board of directors will be up for election. Those currently held by directors Rick Barr and Jeff Evener. The deadline to file is by 4 p.m. Wednesday, May 8th. And then in quotes, it says, we encourage anyone who is thinking about running to do their homework, read up on the association's governing documents, attend the regular meetings and volunteer. Elections Committee Chairperson Tom Piatti said that volunteers have helped make this community what it is today, and there's no better way to get back and serve on our board of directors. Applications are available at the administration building or on the Ocean Pines website. And when I clicked that link, that was the form that I got, that I posted.
What date did you say was on that?
The date,
Yeah,
March
March
24th of 23.
So the resolution that's in the book of resolutions is signed by the board effective March 23rd, 2022. So
this statement was issued March 1st, 2024. Then they listed some upcoming dates, eligible candidate draw, workshop, voter eligibility
Yeah.
deadline.
if you go to the link, what she's talking about is down at the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
There's this candidate registration form link.
Yeah.
And when you click on that, that brings up that. It doesn't bring up the one that's attached to the resolution.
Yeah, that's what they had.
It
The
brings up
problem
the
they
one
had
that I have
last
here,
year.
right?
Yeah,
It's the
3
same,
different
the same
ones.
problem we had last year.
Yeah, it's the same
Because the
problem.
bottom of this one, did the one that is attached with the resolution have all that on the bottom?
It's got everything on the bottom except that date in the lower left.
Oh, okay.
But because it's an attachment to the resolution, technically it carries the date of the resolution, which is March, what did I say?
24th,
24.
2023.
Yeah. So who do we don't have a search committee, right? So Tom Piatti. So maybe drop an email to Tom Piatti and say, just FYI, just so you know, the document that's attached to the link, the separate link that's at the bottom of the page, is not the document that is attached to the actual signed resolution. And then it would be for him to
Straighten out.
straighten out.
Yeah, because
We're just advising you.
there's nothing in the bylaw.
They want to use this
Another
one.
attachment.
Not in the bylaws, no. No.
So my question then, is, let's say I say that to him and say, this application that when you click that link is not the one
That you're,
It's not the approved one that is
attached
attached
to the
to
actual.
M09, the one that was approved by the board,
Which one, what number?
M09,
9.
that was approved by the board. And then it's for him to take up that mantle and do something with that. We're just letting him know.
Okay.
I mean, if the board may prefer the other one, I don't know. And if that's the case, then maybe it's an action for us to take this one out of M09, stick the other one in.
Right.
But
Right.
somebody need to tell us to do that.
Because, I mean, I feel like if they're making an announcement on dates and timelines, they're starting the process here.
Mhm.
And I feel like
He may not have known. He
right.
may have just assumed
Yeah.
that was.
it was confusing.
Wasn't it last year? There were several different versions in different places, so it depended on where you clicked
Three different,
on the
There were
website.
3 different ones.
three
You
different.
know, so
And-
he may have just clicked one and said, okay, this looks updated and
Now,
use it.
I think it's the same one from last year.
Yeah,
That ended up getting assigned to that, because I remember we looked at that and go, wait a minute, that's not the one that got approved.
right,
And then, but it was right before the election, so it was really too late to do anything about it.
right.
So, yeah, we just, I think it's a leftover from that last cycle that just never got corrected.
Okay.
So,
So I will work on that. Is there any
I'm gonna make a note on here
further
about that.
questions or anything that we need to discuss with that one topic? I asked for input if you all have wanted to add anything else under new business. I did not receive anything. We approved the agenda as is, so I'm gonna say we finished our new business for today.
We've got some clinger honors in the
Okay.
governance
So
document
then-
to talk about.
So then we can work on your governance tracker then.
Yeah.
That'll be the next point up. I've got it up on what you emailed. I have it up here too. That big one.
Yeah, so B8, I'm just gonna update that to say that you're going to confirm that whether or not this was an actual signed document at one point, that reserves B08 number to determine whether or not we keep
And
it
I
on the
can
track.
update that to all of us by email.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to wait till our next meeting. I can send that, whatever I find out. I can at least send that as an update.
And then the next one there, that red one is C01. I don't really think there's anything to change right now. It just basically says we're awaiting the board's feedback on what to do about this.
Right.
Let's see, the next one's gonna be C10. So C10 was due March of 23. You emailed the C10 chair, say FYI. Did you ever get any feedback on
I think I
C10?
never got an official response back, but they did look at it. You know, I think I need to see.
Can I just refresh my recollection about what C10 is?
C10 is Environmental and Natural Assets Committee. And it was due, they're supposed to be reviewed every 2 years, so its 2-year review was last March.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, the committee agreed in those procedures to change it and just,
I think it's very helpful.
Oh, yeah, you too.
So based on our own procedures, we
Right.
would mark it as reviewed, move on.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
The committee doesn't.
because they were aware that they needed to look at it. If there was any changes, then they should have notified us.
It's a procedure that was approved as
Right.
part of part of the board.
Okay.
So are you saying then I don't need to email him then?
No, I've noted here that you've already contacted them. So if you haven't, and you contacted them in November.
Okay, okay,
So if you haven't heard anything by now, we'll just mark it as reviewed and move on.
okay.
The next one was that convenience fee resolution, FXX, remember?
Yeah.
So
It's up to budget and finance. We
Yeah.
left that with them.
the last comment I have is that we did not recommend that it be a resolution, that they just put it in the financial policy manual, and we've never heard anything about it since.
Right, no.
Who's the chair of finance? The chair of finance.
Is
now.
that Parks?
No, Clark.
Is it? I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, they came to us and said, we think there should be a resolution, and they wanted us to turn it into one. And we said, no. That's not how it works.
Committee needs to put it
If you
together.
want it to be a resolution, you
Then
draft
it
it up,
can
and we'll look at it for you, and we'll make sure that it, fits in the puzzle, but,
And then
and we said, however, we didn't think that it really met the definition of a resolution, because all it just says is we're gonna charge credit card fees.
Yeah.
That's all it says. Just put it in the,
It's more
and so we sent it
operational
back with
thing.
that recommendation, and we've just never heard anything since.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not, basically, we were gonna leave it as their committee chair and their board liaison needed to work on.
Right, and
if they
the
were
reason,
further.
Cammy, just so you know, the reason this even came up at all, we put it on the tracker, is because it's in the book of resolutions.
But it's not
And it's
listed
not
as a
numbered.
resolution.
It's not numbered.
No, or signed,
Okay.
or somehow or another, it got added,
Yeah,
and it's not signed, it's not approved, doesn't have a number.
and it doesn't meet the format.
So we're trying to either get it turned into something or get it removed from the book of resolutions, one of the
It should
two.
be-
And
What
that-
do you think it should
And that
be?
number.
We think it
is
should be
only a
removed.
reference number.
It sounds to me like it should be removed. and
Yeah,
put
all it is a document that
Yeah.
says we agree to charge credit
Yeah,
card
right,
fees. I
right,
mean, that's all it
right. I mean,
is.
that sounds like that belongs in their.
It's operational.
Under their purview. right?
Yeah.
And that's what we have recommended. Now it's falls back over to the Budget and Finance Committee to decide how they're gonna move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Take it off.
so for us,
So I didn't want to take it off until it comes out of the book. See, this
It
is different.
doesn't have a number though.
It doesn't, but it's in the book. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
problem. It's actually in there.
right. And we wanna make sure
You're
if they
right.
do turn it into a resolution, that it has the appropriate number.
Yeah.
Because remember, we were auditing the book
Right.
to make sure it
We ought
matched,
to- Right, I went through. it with
and that's
you.
how it came up.
Right. That's
It's
how
like,
we
what
found
is this thing? So,
it. But it doesn't qualify.
It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it wasn't even signed
Well,
properly.
no, it's
either.
not. It's-
You know,
As
even,
I said,
even the copy that's.
It doesn't
in
even
the
have an F
book
number.
Right now.
No.
It's not a.
and I think Doug.
it just says convenience fee resolution. There's no F number. It's not signed. It's,
It needs to be written as a resolution and sent by their committee chair to the board. for the
And then
first reading.
they would submit it, it would go through the first reading,
Yeah.
then it would come to,
Well, we don't
Right.
write resolutions.
no, they,
right, no, they would
Right.
do it.
Oh, no. Party's over.
Or you gotta get to work. I apologize.
So I'm just gonna leave it on, I'm just gonna leave it on there for now
Yeah.
because it's still in here.
Oh,
So
sorry.
You're right.
something needs to be done with it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh,
The
yeah.
next one is
Like
the
the.
amenities policy, M02. Liaison institute board test.
That
So
one
this
we
is the
were
one where the
waiting.
board tasks the GM to make a manual,
Right.
to create a manual to address these amenity policies, and we've just never heard anything since. So there's nothing to do with that for now. Let's just leave that the way it is.
Why has it been hanging on till November 21? It's still been hanging? Would seem to me that we would ask a question about what's holding it up.
Well, we've gone
It's in the comments.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We've
I
gone to
got
the
it.
board and say, what's up?
Okay, all right. Nobody wants to move on it. I got it.
So, I mean, there may be movement on it. He may have created a manual. We just can't get anybody to confirm one way or the other. So
I see.
we just don't know.
Who has
And
responsibility for
zeros.
That's
ahead.
amenity policies. That's M02. So, well, it's a board. The board owns that particular.
That's the board's
resolution, so.
responsibility.
Right.
What, I think what happened was, there was an attempt to bring M02 up to snuff, for lack of a better term. Some of this came out of the, what's been as an umbrella called the Janisac litigation, but basically it was, how does one act at our different amenities? That's how
Right.
and ultimately it was decided that the board would not try to write something to cover all amenities, but that we would get some sort of manual or handbook that would govern how the amenities would operate in the face of this sort of behavior.
Guidelines about what to
Right.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and because part of it is also, we had to acknowledge the fact that, you know, we don't really run all the amenities just ourselves. Matt Orton has a hand in some of these as well, so, you know, we gotta take that into consideration.
And isn't this running parallel with the code of conduct and ethics? Because that's where that all started, as I recall.
I don't. I guess the short answer to this would be no, because it really deals with the amenity sites themselves. and
Okay,
Not necessarily the behavior of a board member as much as it is anybody. I mean,
Like, yeah, anybody
anyone could walk in and,
becoming disruptive or
yeah, and create problems. So,
what do you do about it? What do you call
so
it?
that's sort of where that is.
But the last tasking we heard was that the GM was tasked with
And that,
drafting
that
something.
came out of, I want to say last spring.
Right.
Mhm.
There was sort of a quick and dirty conversation
Right.
prior to a board meeting about this is how we should proceed, and then assuming that took place, then the only thing you really had to do was, you know, create a procedure by which the board could act if the board felt it was necessary to curb somebody's rights at that or all amenities. I mean, that was something more akin to what was done with M01 in terms of appeals, that sort of thing. So that's where it left off. I was supposed to go back and check on this. Since I've gotten pilloried on a few other things.
Well, since
I sort of let it lie, but I will at least check on the status of the manual. And see what happens.
so my
Laurel,
suggestion, go ahead.
On the association website, excuse me, I'm not sure where exactly it is. Without going to looking again myself, there is a complete list, or I'm going to say complete list of amenity rules posted by amenity. Golf course, yacht club, beach club, aquatics, and so on. So there are rules that are
I'm looking at it.
posted on the website, which did not previously exist. And I don't know the extent to which prior rules may have existed, but we are at least at a point where there are apparently official rules for each of the amenities. Now, what has to come next from that is another question. And I think that necessarily involves M01 and amendments to M01 as necessary.
So Jim, I'm looking at the at our website, and there is an M03. Is it on here? And it's not on here. That's weird. All right.
Well,
So there's an M03 that I've never noticed before that I have to add to my tracker called
what should be
It's called
should be
Recreation
rescinded.
Facility Rules. And it says it was rescinded in September of 2011 and the relevant content added to M02.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's I
that.
was there at the time, so to speak.
Yes, don't need that. You can add it.
Yeah. Since the number's been taken out. Yeah.
I think the point is, I don't want to go back to prior litigation and not remember everything, but I think a point was that the existence of rules and the process for enforcing the rules and what action can be taken as a sanction with regard to enforcing the rules. I think all of those questions were not satisfactorily answerable at the time of the litigation. And one of the necessary steps would have been the creation of the rules, which appears to have been done. But now what has to be done in the next steps to make effective use of the rules appears to me the situation that exists right now.
So what do we want to do as a committee? I mean, technically, we have an old charging document before the board asking, what do you want to do with this thing? That's, it's over a year old and we're not getting any feedback from them. I mean, our own rules that we came up with said, if we don't get any feedback by X period of time, we're going to mark it, review it, and move on.
Yep.
Do we
think
want
that,
to do that with this?
I think,
Well, can I jump back in real quick again? I want to
Yeah,
try
go
to
ahead,
stay
Jeff.
out of some of this stuff. It's my understanding, right or wrong, from whatever source, out of thin air or what, that we had to get M01 out of the way. I'll call the compliance resolution, property compliance, DR compliance, whatever you want to call that. Articles, not articles, but art guidelines compliance. That had to be gotten out of the way. And then after that, M02 was to be approached because they're effectively the same thing. Not literally, but the same thing. And is what are you going to do with someone who acts in a manner that's detrimental to the operation of an amenity? And you've got the same kind of considerations that have to go on. What are the rules? What are they based on? What actions can you take with regard to them? And how do you document that? What you're going to do and how you're going to do it? And that's all part and parcel of M02, as far as I can tell.
I think I think you're exactly right, Jim.
M01.
Yeah. The problem is just getting feedback from the board about what they want to do about it. I mean, it's just been radio silence.
But we've already got some information up, according to you. You just read it under amenities, right? So there's something out there written. Is it written by us? Is it written by the board?
Oh, you're talking about that they task, because the thing about tasking the GM to do a manual, that was from the board back in May of last year, I think. Yeah. And that was the last we heard about.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
That was the last we
Is that
heard.
still an active working committee, Steve?
I'm sorry?
Is the board actively still working on there? Is there a subcommittee of the board working on that?
Not to the best of my knowledge. My recollection is that this was something that John would have pulled together with staff. And I thought, this part I'm a little shaky on. I thought he would bring it back to the board. Now, maybe I'm wrong about that. But there definitely was supposed to be the development of a manual that governed behavior by all people who attended our amenities. And what could be done if bad behavior occurred. In other words, who was the person who had to step in and say, you need to stop or you need to leave, or whatever the ultimate decision would be. I think that was about as far as the manual is supposed to get. Jim is correct. The next issue at that point would be if there was a reason for the board to go further in terms of curbing a person's use of that and or all amenities. And it was my opinion, I think I may have said this at one point, that since we had simplified the procedures in what is now the approved M01, we should be able to take pretty much those same procedures and plug them in M02 and meet our needs. The issue, I think, at this point is A, is there a manual? And B, assuming there is, I guess it's incumbent upon me to try and get this back in front of the board.
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you just get it added to the agenda as a discussion item? Even though there's nothing actually to review? Do we get somebody else to do it, Steve?
we'll do it in chess.
I can definitely, let me do this. Let me first check on the status of the manual.
Okay,
Because I don't want to be in the position of sort of saying, well, this was supposed to be done.
right.
And then it fell through the cracks somehow. So let me
We
check
just
on
need
that.
somebody to acknowledge if the GM got his task done and whether or not the directors need to actually approve or okay it. Somebody on the director should be able to verify that, yes, that task was done. You know what I mean? So that we, in our tasking, can just move on. And
Well, and if he did, if John did draft up something then the next question is, have the board had a chance to look at it? Are they okay with it? And if they are, then what do we need to do? Is there something in this that needs to be changed
Well, I think,
relative to that?
yeah, I mean, we're sort of a couple of steps ahead of ourselves, but, as I say, I have not seen anything indicating that the board has reviewed or is supposed to review, John's manual. And again, I'm assuming John has done that, but, the other question that comes up after that is, okay, if the manual is in place, how do we then
Enforce it.
make the necessary changes in M02? And my view, and it's strictly my view because we haven't talked about this at all among the board at all, is I think the roadmap in M01 suffices. Now, there have to be probably a few tweaks, but I would think that council could probably do that in short order. But, we're several steps ahead of ourselves. So.
So I'm gonna put down on the tracker that Steve Jacobs
Yeah.
volunteered
Volunteer.
to check on the status of the manual.
Manual, that's what I will do.
Okay. Got it. The next one was the elections, M06, elections and referendum. So the last thing I have on that was, and maybe there's nothing for us to do. Okay, so I just had a note that we provided
Right,
feedback.
so
Okay,
we provided our input at the last meeting when we invited them to join us. So they're moving on with their task.
okay. And so the only other thing that was left was M09, where you're going to email the chair with an FYI about the form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, for election. Yeah.
The form is, I thought we had settled the form issue. Am I wrong?
Well, the form
Because
that is.
Let's back up just a little bit then, because Steve missed that little bit of discussion.
Oh, Steve, that's
Sorry.
late.
Let me pull it up.
So on the website, on the board of directors website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a standalone link that
Right.
says candidate form. You can
Right.
click on it, it opens up the form right away.
Right.
That form that it opens is not the form that is attached to M09 that was formally signed off on by the board. They're different. So if the
Oh,
one that
okay.
is, if the one that comes up when you click on the link is the correct one,
And it needs to be.
then
put
it needs to be added. It needs to be the one put in the attachment for M09. But if the one that's in M09 is the correct one, then the link needs to be
Okay, I
updated
have
to the
not
correct
looked
form.
at the one on M09.
Yeah, we just pulled it up on the screen
It's
here
Majesty.
and we did kind of a side by side and they're different. Like, for example, scroll up, Laura.
All the way to the top? or-
Yeah, we'll scroll slowly. So like that's like those two sections, 3 and 4 are different. Scroll up a little bit more. And so here on section 2, stop right there. So the form that's attached to M09 that was signed off by the board.
Yeah.
At the end of that opening thing there where it says answer yes or no, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It says these questions are optional. That's
Oh,
on the one that is attached
To the.
to the actual resolution. So that's just an example of differences between these forms. There's a bunch of other differences as well. But the bottom line for us, we just need to know which one is supposed to be attached to the amendment.
Right, we decided that I would contact the chairperson for elections and explain this, and then it will be up to them to figure out
Take it for action.
what
Yeah.
the action is in which application they want.
Well,
We are just making them aware that they don't match.
Right,
M09 is the
Search
search
committee.
committee.
right. That's where
We
that,
don't even know if it exists.
but that's where the form exists. Well, that's where it exists.
I mean, the problem we had last year was that we had 3 different candidate forms.
Right. Right,
And none of them were consistent with the change in the bylaws
Right.
that we
correct.
that went through. So, actually, with Tom Piatti's assistance, we clarified which forms should be used, and I thought, although I will go back and check, that the form to be used was the one that was on
The
the
link,
website. not under M09.
But the one attached to the link.
Yeah. I thought that was because the one that was there originally was the oldest one.
Well, but when I copied and pasted directly the announcement on March 1st that Tom Piatti put out with this, announcing that here's some upcoming dates for the election cycle. When you click on, what if I can do it here? This is the one that pops up, and it's the one I had up earlier.
And it's the same one that
So,
pops up
yeah.
when you click on that link.
When I click
It doesn't
that link,
matter. I don't think it really matters to us with what we do. We just,
we just need
whichever
them
one
to
is the
know.
right one needs to be the one attached to the
Well,
resolution.
I think the problem is if somebody wants to fill out the application and they don't click on that link
But
and
they
they
go to
go
the
to the website themselves,
Yeah.
then are they going to be filling out the correct one?
Well, that was our concern last year. What if a candidate comes forward and they have the wrong form? They're like, well, I got this off the website. This is
Yeah.
what was attached to the resolution.
Yeah.
You got the same problem this year where you're down to 2.
Right. So yeah, we just need to know.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
one?
we need to know.
The board
Laura,
approved the form.
Go ahead, Jim.
okay, I don't want to overcomplicate this. It goes beyond simply adding the, whatever the date is, March 24th, 2023, application form to M09. And I personally believe that form that shows on the website now, not in the resolution, but on the website is correct. But there's more to it than simply adding that or amending M09 to pick up that form. M09 itself is significantly out of date because of the bylaws changes. You just can't, you don't want to just go say first reading, second reading, whatever, and add the March 2023 form to the attachment and leave the text of M09 completely out of date. Now, if you go back to, and I don't know if you want to do it now or not, but if you go back to where you were on the governance document, you'll see a long history of the status of M09. And it even as you go down the various steps and dates, some of the prior comments become out of date themselves because you're dealing with status before the bylaws and after the bylaws. Somewhere in here, I have trouble reading it on the screen right now, but there should be an entry. It says something to the effect that the form needs to be updated in the resolution.
Yeah, September 22, we have a note here that says that this needs to be updated to be in accordance with the recent changes in the bylaws. So you're right. The existing M09 is not in alliance with the bylaws.
So,
You know, I don't think that the entry on 1013 CC-CO4 board liaison to discuss with board. I don't know what all, Steve, you discussed with the board, but it has to have had, should have at least discussed the situation with number one, the committee, and number two, in particular, the resolution, which itself implicates what are we doing about a committee?
So I think that's the problem, Jim, is that the discussion keeps getting off track by the question of, should we even have an M09? Because should we even have a search committee? And then we go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then the discussion ends up dying.
Well, that's a rabbit hole that should never exist because the bylaws clearly state that it shall be appointed no
Yeah.
later than March 1st. That's just not a rabbit hole. That's a fantasy.
Yeah.
well, let me make two observations if I can. One is there is a note here which says May 12, 2023, board approved new form. And I'm going to go back and look, but I have no problem, frankly, with the new form being the one that is available on the website as opposed to the one that's attached to M09 as an attachment. I get everything you're saying about the future of M09, you know, and there's at least one comment in the press for this month, which says, you know, well, we're not sure we need a search committee, and at the appropriate time, the board will be consulted, or words to that effect. I mean, I'm not M09. In October last year, I sent an email to the other members of the board saying, what do you want to do? I've never gotten a response. And I would be candid with you and say, I don't think I'm ever going to get a response, because I don't think anybody's really focused on it. So the future of the search committee, one way or the other, I think is still up for grabs. The form issue, though, it seems to me, can be corrected pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And because the board approved a form.
A form.
And if that's the form, I'll go back and pull up the documents. And whichever form it is that they approved is the one that should be available on the website when you click on it. And not worry about going to M09. That would be my suggestion.
So what I remember, because it was 3 forms back then, what I remember is that the form that the board slapped the table on and said, this one's good, had some last minute changes made to it after the board did that, which resulted in, I think, this one that is attached to this link, meaning technically this one, and I think that is the one that was used last year, it was also attached to the link,
Yeah, this
is not the one
that's
that,
attached
if I'm
to it.
remembering this correctly, is technically not the one that the board approved. And I forget what it was. I think what happened was a lawyer came out and said, hey, I think there was a couple sentences in there the lawyer found problematic and that were removed. And I think another one was like consolidated. But I think those changes were made after the board said good to go. So,
So they're never going back to the board. to
Yeah.
accept the amendment.
so I'm not, I agree with Jim. It's a multifaceted problem, right? But I think as far as we're concerned right now with our oversight of the documents, I think our concern is that the difference between somebody clicking on the link to get a form versus somebody going to the resolution and getting a form. And if that happens, you're going to have candidates not submitting. You would have to have a press release or
We don't
something that
want
says
somebody
only
being
use this one.
disqualified because they clicked on the wrong or.
Yeah, the last thing we want is somebody to submit a complaint that we disqualify them because they submitted the wrong form.
So this is the
Another
one that I have
Boston.
up here. This is the
Yes.
one that I have attached to the resolution.
Yeah, attached to the
And that's where
resolution.
it says in red, that section 2, that these questions are optional.
Right,
That's
that was a
what's,
key issue
you
from the
know.
lawyer.
Yeah, actually, I think that was feedback.
That was
that you should,
feedback from the
you
lawyer.
should make people answer these.
Right.
That
And
was
there's
an
no-
option from the
there's no
lawyer.
date on this, down at the bottom either. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
no like March 23rd on the bottom of the application.
So
This is
maybe
the-
to your point, Steve, maybe another press release could simply say, candidates should use only this one, pointing to the one that is linked, as opposed to the one that's in the resolution, if that's the desire. And then somebody just needs to confirm that that is actually the one that the board did indeed approve.
And then put, yeah.
And put them at both places.
Well, the problem with putting it at the other place, M09, goes back to what Jim was saying. M09's got a whole lot of problems. I mean, it's not
Right.
bylaws compliant. It's got all kinds of issues.
Well,
So,
then take it down.
so we could attack this as 2 separate projects. One project is just to get the right form to the candidates who want to use it now.
And time sensitive wise,
Right.
that's
Yes.
the route we have to go.
Yes. And then the other issue is, what do we do with M09?
And we
No,
can't keep just saying, oh, after the next election cycle, because by the time we get to that, we have a new board and we start this whole vicious cycle again
Yeah.
of,
No, it should be something we
know.
work on this summer. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that, was that Bruce that said that? Or the lawyer before him?
that was the lawyer before.
The lawyer before.
Or-
The Congress didn't start until,
Yeah, this was last spring.
Okay, so it just seems to me that having consistency and not being able to drive people out of the roles is really of paramount importance. So tell me, because I just want to make sure I understand the process. So when we want to revise a bylaw to make M09 compliant with what the expectations are, do we as a committee do that, or does that become a committee of the board?
So it depends on who owns it, right? And this particular one is owned by the board. So what we would have to do is write up a charge document. So we have concerns with your resolution that maybe these things need to be changed, and we can send that to the board. Now, the board can come back and go, no, it's fine the way it is, leave us alone. Or they can say, yeah, we agree, take that for action. And then we
And
would
then-
take it back. We would draft up what we
Come back
think
to
it
us.
needs to say,
Yeah.
and then send it back to them to look at.
I think we ought to start that
Basically-
process, quite frankly. I really do.
Wouldn't the charging document simply state that the resolution is inconsistent with the bylaws and it needs to be corrected, period?
And it seems to me like didn't we do a charging
I
document for
thought
this?
we did.
I thought
I
we
thought
did
it
too.
died.
I bet you if you look, I bet you there's an outstanding charging document for M09. I think we've already done this.
Let me tell you, I've been here that long, but I remember that.
Yeah,
And we were in the weeds the whole meeting over that.
Back spending a lot of time rehashing.
I think, to me, the basic question is whether or not we even, if the board even wants to have the search committee. I'm not sure. I mean, and that's not new. It's been kicking around for a few years
Yes, it
now.
Change the bylaws, take it
Well,
out.
Yeah, I mean, no one's bitten the bullet, on what to do.
that's the problem is
Yeah.
that you have to have a referendum to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's,
And I think it goes back even further than that. Nobody wanted to serve because they didn't know how to go about the process of digging up candidates. They sit at the yacht club bar and ask, do you want to be on the board?
I remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's been going on for quite a while.
so maybe the answer is M09 gets updated with very generic language that recognizes the bylaws as they stand, but adds, some wiggle room. I don't know that the lawyers are happy with as an interim solution until somebody can make a decision about whether or not the search committee goes away.
That's a good idea, Keith.
Here's the charging document that we did
There you go.
for
Good job.
M09. Originally was June 10th,
There you go.
2022. And then we updated it,
Good for you.
so that I signed it, and then that was back,
So you re-signed it in
January
23.
13th of
Yeah.
2023.
Well, there's
But
a
this
little
was-
bit of space on there for 24.
By the way.
So to
So we could
Cammie's point,
reissue this, we could,
technically, I mean, the board has acknowledged it's an issue. They just don't know what to do about it,
yeah.
right? So,
The board there's been no discussion about a search committee other than there was.
well, not this board, but I'm talking previous
Different
boards.
board members have kicked this
Yeah.
around for a while.
So,
Right.
so technically, we probably could work on this and then just submit it and say, this might be a
Here's our
solution.
suggestions
Yeah,
to help them
yeah.
to move it, so. Well, that's, does the board feel like we want to work on that,
Well, we will,
ourselves?
I mean, we don't have any other resolutions to work on.
Right.
I'll work
This would
on
be
it with
the-
you.
this
Keith.
would be the time to do it,
Okay, we could do that. We could draft something up and
Yeah.
And then-
just what I can do,
Let Steve deliver.
what I can
Endless.
do, I could,
Can I step in here with a comment, please?
yes, yes, please.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what has been going on with my connection, but there was a good 5 minutes that I get bits and pieces that are unintelligible and the screen freezes up and that sort of thing. So I don't have any idea what you've been talking about
Neither do we.
on this topic in the last 5 minutes or so. But just let me say that at least in part, I'm in agreement, or at least parallel with Steve, that as of this a search process period, we're no different than we were last year. And what the situation was last year is there was a form approved by the board, I guess it was in March 24th of 2023, that was the application form that was used, at least from that period forward, in the search process, candidate application process. Let me put it that way. And there was no search committee. I think we're exactly that situation right now, and talking about what to do about this year, other than affirming that the form is the form that we've been talking about that's posted on the website now. I don't see whether there's anything that can be done. That's what's going forward, so that next year we're not in the same situation. There's where the emphasis needs to be applied, whether that's applied at the board. And I have no idea what's going to happen at the board meeting, other than what I read in the Pines Progress, or whether this committee wants to take on some kind of update task on the resolution, that whatever that may be. But this year is this year. It's not going to be any different than last year. The form is the form.
Yeah.
Going forward is what the issue is. And I'm not going to go into or go down a rabbit hole or anything else with regard to the status of the committee or what should be done about the committee. That I'll leave it at the bylaws are quite clear. The president shall appoint no later than March 1st. You can't get around that. If you want to get around it somehow, you're going to change the bylaws. That's enough out of me on this topic.
So Jim,
Thank you.
what you missed out on, can you hear me now, Jim?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So what you missed out on was, I think what we decided to do, since we have an outstanding charging document, is we're going to go ahead and attempt to draft something for M09 that, at least to us, looks like it as best as it can answer the mail. And then we will resubmit that to the board for their consideration. I think that's what we're kind of agreeing on.
We have the time right now.
Right.
To be able to.
Because we don't have anything
go
else to
down
work
that
on.
rabbit hole and
Yeah.
try and help move this along. I think our discussion was saying that just sending the charging document is not generating enough interest or feedback from the directors back to us to even to know if they've acknowledged it or if they're working on it. So maybe the way we go about it to keep this moving forward and finally get a wrap up is that we will put forth some advice as an advisory committee, and help them get started with that discussion by saying, here's some of our thoughts on how to update this particular resolution. Here's the charging document that goes with it. Now it's up to you guys to acknowledge and take it, the next step. And because we're not totally swamped in other resolutions right now, maybe this is the time for us to help move this particular one forward and get it cleared up. That makes sense?
Yeah, as a practical matter, nothing's probably going to happen. I don't think you're going to find anybody on the board that's going to take on the task of looking at M09. If there was a search committee that existed, that should be a task for the search committee, is to amend or propose amendments to M09 as may be necessary. But yeah, as a practical matter, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
I'm going to laugh a little bit. The original M09, excuse me, the original M09 was drafted by myself with assistance with the then board liaison, Dave Stevens. The two of us were the authors of the original M09. Nobody else was going to take on the task, and we felt that it was a necessary resolution. And there was some resistance from one or more board members as to whether we needed such a resolution. Anyway, I agree with what the approach you're taking.
Okay. All right. So that finishes the discussion on the governance document review. Next up on the agenda is to acknowledge our next meeting is Friday, April 12th.
Does Steve want to give a report?
Oh, wait, yeah, we will backtrack. Hold on.
Oh,
Do you have, because you were here when we did the board liaison report. Is there anything additional that you wanted to share with us?
Yes, there is. Look, he's got handouts.
That would be
No,
helpful.
no, I don't.
That would be helpful.
That we haven't already discussed.
Not offhand. I mean, I assume, under unfinished business, you discussed
Mhm.
matters relating to B08 and C01. I have not seen anything new on C01. I'll go back and check, but when I think I sent you, there were a couple of different iterations that have gone through some changes. And my recollection is, I'll check, but I thought I had sort of flagged that as something that, committee is not going to do anything until after the first
Well,
reading.
and that's what we've got documented
first
here,
reading
is
hasn't
that there's
happened.
no action for us. It's just something that we're acknowledging that this is
Yeah.
our status of it.
So, and I won't see probably until next week, whatever's on the agenda for the upcoming board meeting. But really, other than the different drafts that I sent to you, there has not been any other action that I've seen one way or the other. So that's sort of where we are at this point.
Okay. Do you have a thought?
Well done.
Yeah.
So back to our next meeting,
Yeah.
it's marked down for the 12th, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a good chance I'm not gonna be here for that.
Well, then we have to cancel. No.
Please don't. Carry on.
Okay.
And my,
Does that date though work for everybody else? Because as long as we have, there's 5 of us, we need at least 3 of us at a meeting to be able to conduct business.
yeah, you got plenty.
Of the 5 committee members. So if the rest of the team is okay, we can stick with the April 12th.
Works for me.
On my calendar.
Is that okay?
Augie says good.
Okay, he's good.
Good for me.
There you go. Got a quorum.
All right, we will give you a pass. I won't bring any snacks. See, I didn't bring snacks today for y'all, because I ran out of time. That's right.
Did you discuss the volunteers doing?
Yes, which.
Inside?
It's the 11th.
Camilla and her husband, can attend.
Okay.
His first name is Paul. Pam said she and her husband will also be there, but they're representing 2 different committees then. She's representing us and her husband's representing, what did you say?
Golf committee.
Golf committee. So it's on that committee too.
So, yeah, so,
I meant the liaison.
yeah,
Yes.
so they're the only 2 additions.
Okay. That's 4 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Are you gonna sit with your husband or is your husband gonna sit with you?
We haven't discussed that. I'll go home and talk with him about it and let you know.
Okay. Because I'm assuming he already RSVP to the golf committee,
And he
Which
put my
I-
name on it.
which I sent forward to Rick. So
right.
you already accounted for it, but the question is,
But we need to acknowledge that her name also represents another committee, not
Yeah,
just golf.
yeah.
She is the +1 for golf, but
He's the plus
her
one.
husband's the +1 for us.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, golf has, let's say, 14 or 16 people.
Well, then I'll tell him we'll sit with us, we'll
So-
see what he does. And if he doesn't like that, I'll sit with us.
Okay. Bob, you're, even though you're technically not on the committee now, you were here the bulk of this last year's work. I feel like if you want to attend, you should be able to, if you want to.
Oh, come on, Bob. It'll be better with
Because
you.
he and I were the only 2 from last year,
Yeah.
so we sat by ourselves.
We think so.
Well, I'll sit with the bylaws committee this year.
Oh, because
Because last
last
year,
Yeah.
my wife came to the dinner and she was invited to sit with an entirely different committee because she had become friends with one of the
Right.
committee members. And they wanted to talk about retiring from the federal government, so I was sort of stuck, but I'll-
See, even a volunteer appreciation dinner can be complicated,
yeah.
right?
Sheesh, life is not simple.
All right, so we're gonna stick with April 12th as our next meeting. And then, you know, as always, I've got the future dates, up through July listed on there as well. All right, last call for any discussion. Is there anything that needs to be stated?
Look at that, a miracle's about to happen.
I know, again, two meetings in a row, finishing before 3:00.
5 o'clock.
Is there any objection to adjourning at 2:24 PM?
No.
All right, hearing no objections, we are now adjourned. So thank you very much, Jim, for coming. Thank you, Augie. And thank you all for coming too. Okay?
Thank you.
Signing off.